Are top tech unicorns actively trying to kill off the product manager role? And what happens to your shipping speed when executives suddenly realize that the very people supposed to glue the team together are actually the ones slowing everything down? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a radical shift that is literally rewriting the rules of the tech industry. For years, the traditional PM was untouchable, right? The indispensable core of any tech team. But now, the people at the very top of the product food chain are starting to question the whole setup. We're about to look at some hardcore, fascinating insights that challenge the default way we build software. Okay, let's dive right into this. We regret that product management exists. Now, that's not just some frustrated engineer venting at the water cooler. That is a direct quote from Tom Verrilli, the Chief Product Officer at Whatnot, which happens to be one of the fastest growing U.S. marketplace businesses of all time. It is a massive, totally counterintuitive statement coming from a guy whose entire career has been built in product management. So you've got to wonder, why would a highly successful chief product officer basically want to assassinate his own profession? It's a great question, and it really forces us to take a huge step back and rethink our fundamental assumptions about how teams actually operate. To really grasp why a tech unicorn is building its entire product culture around avoiding product managers, we have to look at the historical context of how this role got so bloated in the first place. Section 1. The Product Management Trap. As these tech companies scaled up like crazy, they needed a way to manage all that chaos. And somewhere along the line, this default HR pod ratio popped into existence. Every time a company hired 6 engineers, they automatically added a designer and 1 PM to complete the so-called pod. It became this unquestioned robotic formula. The problem? PMs were increasingly getting hired just for the sake of filling out a spreadsheet, regardless of whether the specific technical problem actually required a specialist decision maker. You ended up with PMs managing notifications infrastructure, something engineers are perfectly capable of handling themselves.
And then default hiring, it led to a pretty severe unintended consequence. When you insert a PM into every single team by default, it literally infantilizes the engineers and the designers. We're talking about incredibly capable, smart people who could make great product decisions, but their decision-making muscles just completely atrophy. Why? Well, because there was always a PM in the room to babysit them and make the call. The more you abstract builders from the core decisions, the weaker their product instincts become.
All this bloat basically split the PM role in two. On one hand, you got a massive rise in what is often called product theater. Spending all day driving alignment, playing organizational politics, holding meetings, and writing endless strategy documents. Compare that to core PM work, actually querying the codebase, pulling your own data, and talking directly to customers. Ask yourself right now, which side of this divide does your organization lean toward? Because if it's the theater side, you are experiencing the exact trap Whatnot is actively trying to escape. Section 2, regretting that PMs exist. Take a look at this staggering number, 31,832. Over a 2-year period, that is exactly how many people applied to be a product manager at Whatnot. And do you know how many they actually hired from that massive pool? 1. Just 1 single person. This emphasizes just how incredibly exclusive true PM talent is when you strip away all that product theater. They are actively filtering out candidates who spend their interviews bragging about stakeholder management, and instead they are hunting for people with raw, technical, customer-obsessed execution skills. Now, what's really interesting is how they actually deploy the rare PMs they do hire. Instead of stapling a PM to an engineering manager for all eternity, they map PMs strictly to core business problems. Every 6 months during planning, leadership looks at the absolute most critical goals, and they fluidly reassign their small bench of PMs to tackle those specific issues. There might be engineering teams that go a full year without a PM attached to them, and that is considered a feature, not a bug. The PM goes where the highest leverage work is, period. Section 3, the return of the individual contributor. For years, the dream career path was pretty standard, right? You're a great PM, you get promoted to director or VP, and boom. You stop doing the actual work. You become a manager of people, basically living in alignment meetings. But look at this breakdown at Whatnot. Their VPs and directors spend 90% of their time doing individual contributor work, staying in the weeds, pulling data, scoping problems, talking to users. That is now the hard expectation for leadership, not the exception. The logic here is absolutely flawless. Think about it. If someone has 15 years of experience building products, their instincts are razor sharp. They can make the right decision instantly. So why wouldn't you want Messi actually playing on the field for your team instead of standing on the sidelines just coaching the academy players? By forcing top leadership to stay hands-on, these organizations avoid that brutal yo-yo effect, where junior PMs propose ideas only to get rejected in endless review cycles by disconnected executives. Section 4. AI empowers the solo builder. Here's the catalyst making all of this possible. AI literally allows a single product manager to completely bypass those traditional organizational bottlenecks. Need to understand a user cohort? You don't wait 2 weeks for a data scientist. You use data workspaces like Hex threads to pull the insights instantly. Need to understand how a complex system works under the hood? You don't distract an engineer from building. You query the complex codebase directly using Claude. You can even use AI tools to spot real-time regressions and bugs in live environments. AI acts as this unbelievable force multiplier for individuals who already have killer product judgment. Because of this massive AI leverage, we're seeing a wild realization. Top-down leadership actually works incredibly well. But, and this is a massive caveat, it only works if those leaders use AI to get highly embedded in the micro details and find the ground truth. Micromanagement gets a bad rap, but it usually just means a leader is trying to dictate direction without actually knowing the facts. When leaders use AI to pull their own data, look at the actual code, and read the raw support tickets, they aren't micromanaging. They are unblocking their teams and making highly accurate, high-velocity decisions.
Section 5. Playing the accordion.
This brings us to a mental framework called playing the accordion. The whole idea here is that PMs and builders have to constantly alternate between zooming way out for the macro strategy and pushing all the way in for the micro execution. If you just stretch an accordion wide open and hold it there, like spending all your time making strategic roadmaps, you don't make any music. Conversely, if you just rapidly press buttons without knowing the tune, like shipping endless minor A/B tests with zero overarching strategy, it sounds terrible. The music is only made in the constant, fluid movement between the two extremes. Let's see how this builds into a continuous loop. Step 1, you stretch out. You analyze the macro implications and the broader strategy. How does this break at scale? Step 2, you push in. You get right into the weeds, execute those micro details, query the code with AI, and ship V1. Step 3, repeat. You pull the accordion back out, look at the exact new data your feature just generated, update your entire worldview, and plan the next move. It is a continuous, rapid-fire cycle of learning and adapting. And you absolutely have to push into the micro level, because as the source material vividly points out, averages lie to you all the time. There is a classic trap where a PM looks at a dashboard, sees a feature is only used by 3% of users on average, and immediately decides to delete it to clean up the code. But if they had pushed in and looked at the ground truth, they might have realized that for that specific 3% of users, that feature represents 100% of their business workflow. By acting only on macro averages, you destroy the individual user's experience. You have got to zoom in to find the real truth. As the traditional PM role dissolves, let's do a quick core review of the hard facts from this explainer. The 6-to-1 engineering to PM ratio is dead. Whatnot hired exactly 1 out of 31,832 applicants for true impact. And top individual contributors now spend 90% of their time in the weeds doing IC work using tools like Hex and Claude. So, what is today's big takeaway? Here is the underlying logic. You must leverage AI to push into the micro details, or your product instincts will completely atrophy. So let's get into a hardcore debate. Do you think eliminating traditional PMs is a genius organizational design or absolute disaster waiting to happen for engineering teams? Tell me your reasons. Leave a comment below with your thoughts, and I'll send you a link to our mind map breaking down exactly how to use AI for high-leverage product work. Are you playing the accordion, or are you just sitting in alignment meetings? Thanks for joining me on this explainer.